You're welcome to the Mindset Show once again with Tony Williams. It's always a delight to have you guys here. I hope everyone's had a fantastic week thus far, or a fantastic start to the week, I should say. And we're happy to have you on board with me tonight on the Mindset Show. We are going to be talking about an area that's quite relevant to most of us tonight. So what I'll ask you to do is strap on your seatbelts and get ready for the ride. This is the Mindset Show with Tony Williams on Starr Radio UK. As you already know, the Mindset Show is where we teach ourselves how to be a better version of ourselves. Right. You're always welcome to join us in the conversations. The studio lines will be open. Feel free to call in. And join the conversation. Whilst we wait on this to load, I'm just gonna continue playing some more music for a minute. Sorry about that. That was just a technical hitch I was trying to sort out, but thanks to the expertise of my producer, we got that sorted and we're now ready to roll. Welcome once again to the Mindset Show with Tony Williams. As I always say, this is a show where we talk about how to be the best versions of ourselves. And you could join me on this show every Monday night at 9 p.m, although we sort of started a little bit late today. It's interactive conversation, so please feel free to call in and discuss aspects that are relevant to the topic that we will be speaking about today. The studio lines are 0208 133 2257 or 0208 133 2258. We are also extremely social, so feel free to join us on any of our social networks. at Starr Radio UK, where you can join in the conversation. This is the Mindset Show with Tony Williams, and I'm your host, Tony Williams. I'll be anchoring the show for the next part of 45 minutes as it goes on Starr Radio UK. So, today we are going to be talking about building character. How do we build character? What is character? How does character affect our performance? And many other aspects and elements of character is what we're going to be looking at today. It might be news to you to know that even when you think people are not sort of looking at you, one thing that is very sort of profound or very outspoken, one of our silent words is our character. So even when you think you're not saying nothing, or you think you're quiet, or you think you're not participating in one way, shape, form or the other, there's a hidden element of us as individuals that's always speaking on our behalf. Whether it's how you speak, well, how you act when you go into a place, or how you act among peers, or how you operate in your marketplace, or your integrity as an individual, or all different traits of characters that that just speak on our behalf, even without us sort of opening our mouth and specifically talking, is how and what we're going to look at today, and try and address how we could build, sort of identify the good ones and address how we could build those aspects of that unspoken side of us that helps us or portrays us in a light that we're not, or that we're actually not. So once again, you're welcome to the Mindset Show with Tony Williams. We are on Starr Radio UK, and please feel free to join the conversation at any time on any of our social networks or on the studio lines that was announced earlier. So building character, that's what we want to be looking at today. What is character? And as I always say, I like to put a definition to any sort of area of or any topic as best as I could, just so that we could have like a sort of a mental sort of understanding of what exactly we're talking about. So I would normally just look up what the definition of the operative or objective word of the topic is, and in this instance I looked up what the definition of character is, and it says like character is a mental and moral quality that makes an individual distinct. Now if we look at that definition, like character is the mental and moral quality that makes an individual distinct. That shows to me, or that says to me, that individually we have all possibly, or maybe would have different characters individually. Like technically speaking, I could say no two characters are really the same, because it says it's a quality that makes you distinct, and makes you distinct means it makes you different from the peers. So it's no coincidence that you would have 5 or 6 children in a family. Well, I come from a family of 5, so it's easy to use that sort of figure, and none of our characters are the same. In fact, I was called the black sheep of the family. And it's not because of the genes that was passed down from my parents onto me, or the way I was brought up, or it's just that definition of them or that label of them labeling me the black sheep of the family would normally just come from my character. Maybe it's the things that I do, my outlook to life, what my prerogatives were, my out view outlook to certain things in life, or my perspective on certain things in life, or the way I operated, or the way I, sort of my decision making, all those kind of things add together is what will shape you. And even when you in your own right think, oh, the way you're acting, or the way the relationships you're keeping, or the way you're behaving with other people it seems normal to you, other people would sum the totality of all those things up in you, all those elements, like how honest you are, how obedient you are, how respectful you are, how trustworthy you are, your integrity, your patience, all those ingredients that we term to think are, elements of someone who's got a good character. They would sort of sum it up, and they would use that to label you as a particular person. Now, this person that they're labeling you as is really your physical being, but the attributes that they're actually labeling is your character. So however you want to look at it, when you put that word moral in there, that character then is what people would look at as to say whether you're doing something good or bad. So, morals, we all know what moral means, so I don't really need to dwell on that. But the character that you portray is how they know how your mental moral standing is, So I would give some scenarios later on in the program, and it will put the whole, that whole perspective into light properly. So yeah, so the character of a person, it's his mental and moral quality that makes him different from anyone else. And that being said, we could now ask ourselves, so if that's the case, if a character is our mental and moral quality, who is responsible for building that mental and moral quality in us? Who is it? Is it us as individual that's responsible for building it? Is it our environment? Is it our parents? Is it our decisions? Who is responsible for building and nurturing the right character in you as an individual? A lot of people could turn around and then say, well, my environment, it's my parents, it's the relationship, or the circumstances could be the easiest one that people say that is responsible for building this character. But the truth of the matter, if you really want to have a look, is that the onus is of how to build the right character. It's on me, it's on you, it's on the individual himself, because I'm a firm believer that regardless of how difficult or regardless of what circumstances or situation we go through in life, as long as we live through it, that's very important. If it doesn't kill us, then as they say, it makes us stronger. So as long as we're living through it, we have the ability, we have that inbuilt ability to override, make change, no matter what the situation, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the mental deposit that it leaves with you. You still, as long as you're living through it, even if you have the scars to bear or to show for it, you still have, as long as the breath of life is still in your nostrils, as they say, you still have that ability to make a change. So there's no external factor. Yes, the external factor could come and hit you and knock you and bend you and send you in the wrong direction. But as long as you still have breath of life in you, you still have the ability to make a change for the desired outcome you want. Now, that's the important phrase here, the desired outcome you want. Because if you don't want the correct desired outcome, then you're happy to just settle for however your life or circumstances or situation just turns out to be. But if you do want a different desired outcome, like if you get into a stage in life where you think, well, I'm fed up of just being I'm tired of just being tired. I heard that yesterday. I'm just tired of being tired. Then you would get to a stage where you would know that you could put certain steps into place to make a change. And those steps that you put into place to make the change are, in truthfulness, part of the character that you're either building, you're developing, or that you're allowing that you're willing to let go of, so that you could get into a better place. So truly, who's responsible for building our character? We are as individual, not our parents. Yes, our parents up until a certain age, but from the minute we start knowing our right from wrong, from the minute we start having the society train us, moral standards that are acceptable in the society, we as individuals begin then to have the onuses of building our character, our own self. It reminds me of a scripture saying that the sins of the father will not, if that's correct, the sins of the father would not be sort of taken out on the son, if I paraphrase it, and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, the father, he's made his own choice. The son at one stage would have to make his own choice. He, they even though they're joint, or they're related bloodline, individually, they're allowed to make different choices as they go forward. I don't know if I explained that properly, but I'm sure that message is got. So what is character building? Another thing I looked up, it says it's the effort or endurance that we put ourselves through to a degree that it begins to change or strengthen us. So the effort or endurance that we put ourselves through to an extent that it begins to change or strengthen us. Now, again, that says to me that once you have a character, or once you've developed a character, it's a difficult thing to begin to change it. Like they say, it's easier to bend a tree. I always like to say these words, right? A three. So I'm talking about TREE, a tree when it's small than when it's young. That's how it says. I don't know if a tree is ever young, but when a tree is young, as opposed to when a tree is, turned to a massive a tree with big trunks and stuff. So it's easier to bend it when it's young and bend it in the right direction, as opposed to bending it when it's a big trunk. And the truth of the matter is, it's the same with character, so that's why I said the onus is on us, when we want to make a change in our character, and not nobody else. The onus is on us, which is to say also is never going to be easy. It's always going to be us getting to that stage of, where we think, okay, we're tired of being tired, and then we decide to go in a different direction, because obviously the character that we had up until then is what we thought was right. Maybe we were doing wrong things, or we were lazy, or we were dishonest, or we were not trustworthy, or we were impatient, or there tons of sort of elements of character, well, I'll call it character traits that I could mention, and we then decide that, okay, we're tired of how all these elements are affecting our life in a negative manner, and we are going to make a change. But because those elements are so embedded in us, they've really become a way of life that we're used to sort of living with. To change it, it takes us going against the norm. So like I could look at my body and think, this chest is not pumping, or is not big as the way I want it to be. But if I want to make a change to it, I could say, it's not big enough. But if I don't begin to start is that correct? If I don't begin to start doing something about it, or like like take a decision to start going to the gym, or maybe start doing push-ups, or start exercising, building the muscle of my chest, or building that specific muscle that relates to sort of enlarging my chest without being sort of implants as they say. I don't know the one that men do, but I know ladies do implants. So without it being, and I don't mean that in any form or shape, just in context of the conversation, without me having to do that, then I will have to make a decision to start doing those push-ups on a regular basis. And those push-ups or maybe it's a bench press, or whatever it is that I needed to do to sort of build my chest up, that would be what I have to be focused on at that specific time for a period of time, until I begin to see the difference. And that's exactly how you build character. As I said, you have all these different traits of character. I think I wrote some down. You have patience, being accountable, trustworthy, motivated, creative, positive, cautious, loyal, a whole bunch of them. And they're all individual traits of our character. And there's so many of them that I can't even finish thinking of, but I'm sure as I speak, you could think of some of them yourself and understand some of them yourself. And when you want to change a certain aspect of that character, it takes you identifying that specific part that you want to work on. So that specific part of the character you want to work on, and then begin to go against it, or begin to exert pressure on it, or demand pressure of it, so that it begins to make a change. And until we do that, we won't be able to actually see a change in our character, and in turn we're not really, or we won't be able to be in a position to build that character into something different that we want. Okay, so here's a couple of scenarios, and these scenarios I wrote down just so you could understand how character actually is, or what it is. Because some people just, it amazes me how some people just get to a stage where they just say, well, that's just my nature, and someone will say, mate, but what you said there, it's a little bit dishonest, or it's a lie, or that action didn't show integrity, or it didn't show trustworthiness, or you were quite impatient with your wife there, and they would always, individuals would just justify themselves and say, that's just how that's just how I am, isn't it? Like, I can't do nothing about it. And they just accept it, regardless of whether the outlook to that, or the outlook of that action or that trait doesn't really look nice, or doesn't look or let me not even say look, isn't acceptable in a modern day society, or isn't acceptable for someone who calls himself a gentleman, or a husband, or a boyfriend, or they just turn around and say, well, that's how I am, and they just justify it, and then you realize it gets to a stage where that trait, that particular trait, becomes so rigid in them that it's virtually impossible, or I should say literally, not virtually, literally impossible to change. So, for instance, the scenarios I put down, or I penned down, I was going to say painted, or picture I painted of the scenarios, okay, so in terms of someone being motivated by sort of money, which many of us are, I'm motivated by money, I'm not sure about you, but in terms of some of us being motivated by money, so here's a couple of scenarios. So one of the scenarios is a case where perhaps I was in a, okay, let me use myself as an example. So perhaps, and then you could sort of relate it to whether it's something you would do or not. So perhaps I'm not going to give an answer to this scenario, so it's just an open-end scenario. So assuming I was sort of coming into London, I normally take the train into London, Victoria, and assuming I was coming in to Victoria station, and there was only myself and a couple of other people in the carriage. And on one of the carriage, on one of the chairs, there was a very old lady who had a whole bunch of bags, you know, like a whole bunch of bags that she was carrying. And on getting to Victoria, she was an old lady, quite old, maybe about 3 or 4 of us there. She was quite old, so I'd already seen she was an old lady, but I was in a rush. You know, I had to get to work, and I must say these are metaphoric sort of analogies. There's nothing that happens before anyone starts judging me. And I was in a rush going to work, and we all, you know, the train pulled into Victoria Station, and we all decided to get out of the train. And because the lady was old, everybody let her go first, but the other 2 people were coming from, you know, as the carriages are, the other people were coming from a different direction of the carriage. I was actually coming from the direction where the lady was. And as she went out, I looked on the seat that she got up from, and I saw a bag, a little bit pared open, and I saw, remember I'm saying motivated by money, and I saw sort of like a stack of notes in there that automatically, if I calculate them, was a couple of thousands. And I think to myself, but the lady is gone, and she's got so many bags, so really she might not be able to remember whether she, you know, picked the bag with the money or not. She just left it there, you know, because she had to get out at Victoria. And I picked the bag. Character would bring 2 things to mind. Should I call her back off the train and say, or off the platform, and say, ma'am, you accidentally left this bag, and incidentally, you know, all this money is in there, you know, it must be very important to you, because she's an old lady. Or I could think to myself, well, she's gone on the platform, nobody has seen me pick this bag. I could quickly put my hand in it, take the cash and put it, you know. So the truth of the matter is, whatever decision you make right there and then is a proper reflection of your character as an individual. Now, I'm not going to say what my decision would be, but you could think about it in your own time, and feel free to sort of message me what you think your decisions will be. I know what my decision will be, because I like to think I've got a fantastic character, but I can't sort of say the same for many other people. Now, the second scenario, actually, it's not sort of metaphoric. This was actually a research done, and this research was done by a guy called Dr. Goldman, and the research went on for such a long time that they began to call the research Goldman's dilemma. I hope I said that word right. Dilemma. Yeah, Goldman's dilemma. And incidentally, what the research entailed was he was a doctor to many athletes, and I'm not going to mention any particular countries, but he was a doctor to many professional athletes. Many of them were Olympians at the time for a period of 10 years. And what the research stated was that at a specific, over a period of time, just before every competition, the doctor would walk up to individual athletes, I should say, and say to them, look, you're going in for this competition, and as it is, I've got a pill that could guarantee you of outperforming every other opponent that you are going to face during the tenure of this competition. Now, this pill, it's obviously a performance enhancement pill. It's illegal. We know it's cheating. However, if you are willing to take it, you would actually, as I said earlier, outperform everyone and you would not get found out that you've, you know, when they do the drug test and everything, it would not sort of be visible in your system or your bloodstreams or whatever it is they actually do when they take the blood samples. And the only downsides to this is that after maybe 6 or 7 years, you are going to be having side effects of having used this pill in the past. Can I tell you, or should I ask you, how many people you think, or how many athletes, I should say, professional athletes, Olympians, said yes, in spite of everything that you said, I'll take that pill? If you could guess the correct percentage, then I don't even know what I'll give you. But to your surprise, that percentage of the people who said yes was quite shocking. Now, that tells me that even as we strive and struggle to be good people or good individuals, there's a hidden part of us that when we do have an opportunity to show who sometimes we truly are, most people, they jump at that opportunity. And that's quite shocking. You're listening to the Mindset Show with Tony Williams. We're on Starr Radio. As I said, I said earlier and I said again, it's a place where we try and talk and teach ourselves on how to be the better versions of ourselves. Feel free, as I always say, to sort of hit me up or hit into the studio on any of our social media platforms, or just message me through my the studio lines, or sorry, the studio our WhatsApp lines, or our email. Now, the third scenario I'm going to paint, so remember I've painted 2 scenarios, and one was the old lady in the bust. Second one was not a scenario but an actual research, and I told you to make a decision on what you think the percentage might be of the athletes that said they would take the pill. Now this scenario is a test. Now and this test is a hypothetical one. So assuming I say to you as an individual, and the point is, I'm just painting these scenarios so that you can understand what character actually is, because it's that character that makes that decision for us. You know, the definition was a mental and moral quality. So when you could identify what your mental state of mind is and the moral values that you have, then you make a decision, and that decision really just spells out your character on a bright white line. So here's the test. Imagine I say to you, okay, as an individual, I'm a wealthy philanthropist. Could I say that word right? Philanthropist. And I say to you, all right, I am going to give you, towards whatever course you're doing, £1 million. But I'm going to give you this £1 million based on a few, what can I say, things, based on a few elements. And these elements are, okay, so let me say, I'm going to give you this £1 million for a period of maybe 6 months. And then I'm going to base this gift of £1 million on a test that I'm going to carry out on you. If you pass the test, then that £1 million is not refundable. If you do not pass the test, then you would have to pay that £1 million back at the end of a period of a specific time, or a specific time. So let's assume I say 6 months, just, you know, for the to put everything into the proper perspective. But I say to you, look, this £1 million, you could have it after 6 months, or you could have it now, right now, but during this 6 months, I'm going to measure a few things or a few elements or a few traits of your character, that I'm going to put you in certain situations, and I'm going to measure how your character or these traits come out of you, you know, in these random situations. These situations are not going to be told to you. You could have the £1 million back, and then I'm just going to test you, you know, during a course of 6 months, randomly on various aspects of various traits that build up a genuine character, or that we all agree builds up a genuine character. And I could say, like, for instance, those traits might be your patience, you know, your trustworthiness, your honesty, your creativity, your what else could I think of as a character? Let me go back, and so I could get, you know, a whole bunch of them. Your cautiousness, your loyalty, your accountability, your respectfulness, your patience. I did mention honesty, and you know, etc., as they easily say. So this test is going to be based on that. If you come through after 6 months of all these, you know, and you sort of score an above average mark, or let's even say maybe 60%, you know, on all this test, and I'll be the judge to whether you pass the test or not, then you don't have to pay that money back. Would you be able to agree with me that after 6 months, because you've got the £1 million in hand at the start of those 6 months, and because you know exactly what the deal is if you fail any of these random tests, even though you don't know it, you will, as an individual, remember I said at the start of these scenarios that assuming we're motivated by money, you will, at the start of all these scenarios, begin or put yourself in a position where you are living in the now. So you would be aware of everything that sort of, you would be aware of your patience, you'd be aware of your courteousness, you'd be aware of, you wouldn't tell a lie, you'd be honest, you just be calm, because the truth of the matter is you don't know which one exactly you're being scored on. But one thing you do know is the end result, that if somebody slap you and you decide to punch the person back, that might be the one, that might be the punch that would make you pay this £1 million back. So I said all of that to say this, that what we focus on the most, or what drives our focus, is what deals with how we, or what actions, how we really operate. So, you know, if we zoom our mind into something, you know, we're focused on it, and it become a driver in us, and we're, you know, we're sort of how they say, horn into specific things. Over a period of time, we'll begin to operate in a way that, you know, those things that we're horning into will begin to sort of, what's the word I'm trying to find? Those things that we've horned ourselves into, will begin to exhibit itself through us, you know. So literally, what drives us, what we focus on, it sort of channels how we operate. So because we know we're going to pay back this money, you know, we think, well, the driver of that is the money, and the fact, what we're focused on is making sure that we're not disobedient, we're respectful, we're trustworthy, we're honest, we're obedient, we're accountable, because we don't want to pay back that money. And that's how it is. So I said all of that for someone who now turns around and says to me, oh, that's just the way I am. No, that's not the way you are. If you do have something that drives you, if you do understand that some of these character traits are the things that are putting you in a position and in a box of limitation, and you're tired of being broke, busted and disgusted, and you really want to make a change, then you would sort of take those things and put them as pedestals for you to make, or for you to take stepping stones into making a change towards the better. Now, so how do we build character? I would say there are various ways in which you could build it. I did mention about, you've got to sort of be able to identify with the exact traits, that you want to change in you. If you're impatient, for example, you want to first of all identify with the fact that you're impatient, because unless you begin to identify with the fact that you're impatient, nobody's gonna, you're not gonna change nothing. If anybody says anything to you, that's just the way I am, you won't be calm. If it's trustworthiness, you've got to start thinking to myself, yes, I'm in this studio, but this pen, it didn't come in with me. I shouldn't go out with it. And it's amazing, the little things like that. You go to work, the office puts a pen on the table, and the pen goes home with you, or you go to the church, and they give you, imagine in church, you go to church, they give you a pen to fill out your offering envelope, and the pen goes into your chest pocket. And sometimes it's done unconsciously, but that's even worse, because as research shows that like 95% of what we do is controlled by our conscious mind. So that really shows that really, if it was bigger than that, maybe not in a church scenario, maybe you were an usher and they gave you the offering basket and there was some loose change, you might just decide to, who knows? I mean, it's all character. So you've got to identify with it, and you've got to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to change. And then once you decide that this is the trait that I want to change, I always say one of the best things that social media has done for us is arrange what they call themes, and when you have a theme, you're disciplined. When you have a theme, like you could say on Instagram, you could say, oh, this is how I want to post, this is my new theme, and then you just begin to post so that everything falls in line with your theme. Or you might have a website, or and you say, look, this is my theme, and this, everything you begin to post, it's not exactly a niche. There's a difference between a niche and a theme, but a theme is just a way you want to present yourself out there. And if you could have a theme for your social media, or your social if you could have a theme for your social media, there's no reason why you can't have a theme for your actual life. So when you sort of pick up the traits or the elements you want to identify with, then just have a theme. So a theme could be something like, okay, today I'm just going to work on my patience. All I'm going to do, no matter what the situation is today, I'm just going to work on my patience. No matter who cuts me up in traffic, no matter who shouts and honks at me, no matter who says get out of the road, I'm just going to be patient. You might say, today all I'm going to do is think positive. No matter what anyone says to me around me, that's just going to be negative. I'm not going to pay no attention. Everything I do today, every single thing I do today, it's just going to be oozing from a positive. Excuse me, it's just going to ooze from a positive mental state of mind. You might want to say, okay, today I'm just going to be accountable. I'm going to be accountable in the marketplace. I'm going to be accountable in the workplace. I'm going to be accountable to my household. I'm going to be accountable to my family, to my wife, to my girlfriend. And that just means when they say, where have you been? You say the truth. I've been with my, or you just be truthful. Just be truthful. And that's another trait, truthfulness. You just say, I'm going to be truthful, and you could work on these on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to sort of overwhelm yourself with, different aspects of it. Or you could say today, okay, I'm going to just work on this until, I start to see a difference. Like I said, when you want to build a specific part of your muscle, you use the exact things that allow you to build that part of that muscle. And the people that don't make changes when they're building muscles are people who give up easily. So for instance, people who we'll start a gym at the start of the year, and then at the turn of, the turn of the first month, their subscription just carries on running, but they run a different direction. There's not going to be no change there. So you have to understand that there are going to be sacrifices that are required of ourselves, and you've got to put that effort in till you're able to get the satisfied desired outcome that you want. I always say as well, surround yourself with sort of articles, surround yourself with pictures of people that you sort of admire, and you admire their character, the kind of person that you wish, the sort of secret place of your mind that, oh, you want to become, or you want to become like. Quotes are very good. Put quotes, read quotes, let them be meaningful to you. Don't just read and let them roll off the top of your your lips. Like, read the quotes, let them be meaningful, and have them around you. I always say, one of the good ones I always say is, like, I'm my only competition. Yes, I do have people who I sort of look up to, or who I use as a mark yard, but the truth of the matter is, I'm my only competition. I take things in my own stride. I move in my own lane. No matter what A, B, C, or does that's external to me, I really am not going to let that affect me. In that stands, I would not be pressured into anything. I would not have to lose my values to make decisions, or lose my morals to make decisions that I don't think are those decisions that are not in line with my moral values. So yes, quotes are good, pictures are good, articles are good. Surround yourself with people who could encourage you, people who you're accountable. That's part of the accountability. People who you're accountable to most of the time. Surround yourself with these sort of people on a regular basis. And then also, finally, always know that character drives performance. That there's no way you're going to have a good character and it wouldn't reflect in your performance. It would always reflect in your performance, whether it's in the marketplace, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's amongst your children, whether it's among friends. It would always show out different. It would always show out different, to it. I said, building character, you need to get organized, you have to be disciplined, you have to be committed, you have to be the example that you want others to be. So that that character starts with you. You have to be that example. Nobody else has to be that example. You have to be that example. You have to say to yourself, this is what I want for myself, and then you have to start making that change from living it out from within yourself. Always remember that anything that would be under scrutiny, as anything that they would put under scrutiny as an individual, would always be your character. You might not know it. You might think it's the physical being. No, it's not the physical being. The physical being, yes, in terms of your build but the only thing that comes under scrutiny, under anybody's scrutiny, the authorities, your workplace, your family, your friends, your relationships, it's your character. That's the only thing that people will say they like about you, they don't like about you. It's good, it's bad, it's whatever, and then finally, also, when you don't think people are thinking, or when you don't think people are looking, when you don't think people are thinking about you, or when you don't think people are looking at you, don't be deceived. They're always looking. Big Brother's always watching you. And I'm not talking about CCTVs, but even from a friend, even from afar, your friends, the people you're around, all the people that you surround yourself with, or the people that you work with, or the people that you're in association with, they're looking at you. You might not think they do, or you might not think they care, or you might think they care, but truly they're looking at you. And they might look at you again as an individual, but the only thing that they look at that's visible to them the most is your character. And I said, like, the last bit I sort of put down was, look, when we all exit this world, at some time we will. What would you like to be on your tombstone? Like, there could be two tombstones, and one could say, yes, he was rich, but he was arrogant, and he had, you know, so much people around him, but none of them loved him. Or you could have the fact that they said he had an impeccable character, he had an inspiration, he lived an inspirational life, he was loved by everyone, and everyone greatly misses him. And you could actually make the choice of which one that you would prefer to have in your final days on your tombstone. But as time permits, I hope this has been inspiring to some of us. Remember, our character, it speaks for us more than we could, no matter how articulate we are. And hopefully, if there are areas that we need to make changes on, today's show would help us in developing, or at least taking the steps to moving forward on that journey. I hope you all have a fantastic week ahead, and until we speak again next week, same time, same place, good night and God bless.